Hi, this reading is not for the very young children. It's for some of the older ones who might enjoy. I'll be reading, as I said, from Three Heads of the Well by Carolyn Emerick. And it's always fun to have a wand, especially the really young ones who like it. So I'll be using that and probably more in some of my other readings. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. One moment. The Three Heads of the Well. Long ago in the days of old, even before King Arthur presided over his Knights of the Round Table, in the eastern part of jolly old England reigned a king who held court at Colchester. At the height of his glorious reign, the king's beloved queen contracted a grave illness and died suddenly, leaving the bereft king alone with their only child, a daughter of 15 years. The young princess was renowned through all the land, not only for her stunning beauty, but also for her gentle and kind spirit. It came to pass that the king fell upon difficult times, and his treasury was near depleted. His advisors told him of a rich, noble woman who had also only just one daughter, and she was a widow. Though she was not pleasant to look upon, in fact, she was humpbacked with the nose of a pelican bird. The king was blinded by the shine of her pocketbook. He took the homely woman as his wife and brought her and her daughter to live at the palace. The new queen's daughter had the appearance of jaundice, with a yellow pallor to her skin. Despite the princess's best effort to welcome her new stepmother and stepsister, the two were filled with envy for the beautiful young girl, and their hearts were full of malice. It was not too long before the new queen's envy overtook her. She began to spread false rumors about the princess and make sure that the lies reached the ears of the king. The king was loath to believe slander of his daughter, but the reports kept coming in. Eventually, he began to believe that his daughter was as immoral and poorly behaved as the rumors suggested. Picture is Miranda by Sir Francis Dixie. The princess, of course, caught wind of the things being said about her, and was aware that she had fallen from the good grace of her father. This became all too overwhelming for the young woman, still mourning the loss of her dear mother. Strolling in the garden one afternoon, she crossed paths with her father. She opened her mouth to address him, but her emotion overwhelmed her, and she began to cry. She begged his permission to leave the palace and seek a new life in the wide world. Believing his child to be a lost cause at this point, the king consented to her request. He bade his wife to give his daughter whatever provisions she thought would be necessary for her journey. The spiteful old queen gave the princess only an old burlap sack containing just a loaf of brown bread, a hunk of hard cheese, and one bottle of beer. Though this was a pitiful dowry for the daughter of a king, the princess took it with gratitude and started on her journey. The princess made the rounds through the castle to say goodbye to all the servants who had served her well and watched her grow since infancy. The cook and the kitchen's maids broke down into sobs as they embraced the maiden they had watched grow up. Even the stable master shed a tear to see her go. But go she did. She had to. Young Peasant Girl by Ivan Ivanovich. And so she left the castle, through the courtyard. The peasants in the yard stopped and bowed in respect as she walked by. As she walked toward the gates, the guards lifted their arms in salute, and none could believe that their beloved princess was leaving the castle alone, dressed in only a peasant's frock and equipped with a pathetic burlap sack. She walked and she walked, through groves and forests, over hills and down through valleys, until at last she came upon a cave beside a brook. Sitting on a large stone at the cave's entrance was an old hermit who greeted her. "Good morning to you, fair maiden, and whither dost thou journey?" "Good morning to you, sir," said the maiden. "I travel through the world alone to seek my fortune, whatever it may be." "What dost thou carry in thy burlap sack and bottle?" said the old man. "In my bottle I carry provisions, bread and cheese, and my bottle holds a small bit of beer." "Have you breakfasted today? Would you like to share this meal with me?" she asked him. "Why, it happens that I am famished," the hermit exclaimed. The princess handed over her sack and bottle and bid him to eat his fill. "With all my heart I thank thee," cried the old fellow. Juliet and the Friar by Sir Francis Dixie. After he had eaten and returned the remainder to her, the old man said, "Dear maiden, as thou sojourn on, thou wilt come upon a thick and thorny hedge, which is impassable. Here, take thee this wand in thine hand." Well, I don't think it looked like that, but "Strike the hedge thrice, and speak aloud, 'Pray, hedge, let me pass,' and it will part and let thee through. A ways further thou wilt come to a well. Within the well dwell 3 golden heads, which will arise from the water and speak to thee. Whatever thou shalt ask of thee, do it. Whatever they shall ask of thee, do it." The princess took the hermit's advice to heart, thanked him for his gift, and set off down the path. She soon found the hedge, just as he said, and found that it was indeed impassable. The princess lifted the wand and tapped the hedge firmly 3 times, saying, "Pray, hedge, let me pass," with each strike. Just as the kindly old man had predicted, the hedge parted and let her pass through. And so she walked, and she walked, and then she came to the well. Weary from her travels, the princess sat down beside the well to rest her tired feet. But no sooner had she sat when a shining golden head rose up through the water. It was the beautiful face of a woman that glittered like gold. The princess was mesmerized by this sight, and then the head began to sing The 3 Heads of the Well by Arthur Rackham. Wash me and comb me and lay me down softly, and lay me down on a bank to dry, that I may look pretty when somebody passes by. The princess did not hesitate. She reached down and ran her hands through the hair that shone like the sun as it waved through the water. She picked out the leaves and the burrs and the twigs that had gotten entangled therein. Gently she lifted the delicate golden head from the water and cradled it lovingly in her own lap. She pulled her own silver comb from her pocket, the only treasure she was able to take with her from the castle, and carefully combed out the snarls until the hair was soft and neat. The princess handled the head with care and softly laid it down to dry upon the primrose bank beside them. No sooner had she done this when a second and a third head appeared, each singing the same song as the first. And so the princess did the same for each. with as much tenderness as she did for the first. By now she was famished as well as tired, so she sat down again and pulled out her provisions to have her supper. As she ate beside the well, the three heads, now sitting together on a primrose bank, said to each other, "What shall we weird for this damsel who has treated us with such kindness?" It should be pronounced, "What shall we word for this damsel?" The first head said, "I word her with such beauty that she will charm every man who lays his eyes upon her." The second head said, "I word her a voice so sweet that her song exceeds even the nightingale's." And the third head said, "My gift will be even greater. I will word her to be so fortunate that she shall become queen to the greatest prince in all the land." When the princess had finished her meal, the heads had been dried and warmed by the sun and were ready to be placed back into their well. As sweetly and tenderly as a mother, the maiden carefully picked them up one by one and placed them gently back in their watery home. With a sincere goodbye, the princess picked up her burlap sack and continued on her way. And so she walked and she walked until she came to a woodland wherein she saw a king hunting with his noble entourage. The princess tried to quietly pass unseen, but the king spotted her from afar and was lured by a strong curiosity. The king turned his horse in her direction and approached her. Immediately struck by her beauty, the likes of which he had never seen on any other woman, and lulled into devotion by the lilting song of her voice, the king asked her to marry him on the spot. The princess hesitated, but she had endured so much heartache in her short life and was ever so weary from her wanderings. She looked into the eyes of this king and saw that he was so sincere and that he loved her truly and would treat her well. And so the maiden consented to marry this king whom she had only just met. Illustration by Gustav Tengren. The king swelled with happiness at her consent and brought her home to his castle, where they were married the very next day. When the king discovered that his new bride was none other than the daughter of the king of Colchester, he ordered that carriages and retinue be prepared so that he may pay his respects to his new father-in-law. The carriage that held himself and his new queen was plated in gold and bedecked with the most precious gems. So when they approached the castle in Colchester, the old king was astonished by the sight of their entourage. The old king recognized that this glorious young queen was his own daughter, and he was astonished. She and the young king told the story of her journeys and how they came to meet her father and his court. The entire castle was abuzz with the warm feeling of joy for their beloved princess's good fortune. That is, except for the ugly old queen and her hideous club-footed daughter, who were seething with jealousy. Keep in mind that we must never refer to people by their, things that they're born with. Anyway, she was jealous. Nevertheless, the whole castle rejoiced with a great feast and dancing that continued for several days. When the festivities ended, the old king gifted his daughter with a dowry befitting of her status, and she and her husband returned to their own home. Illustration by Edmund Dulac. This is the end of part 1. This is a 2-part series. And in a few moments, I'll create another stream and read the second part to the story. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. And be prepared for a treat after part 2. There's going to be a part 3, 4, and 5 for the adults and older young people.